Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Quality of Life show. Every third Wednesday we get to chat with Dr. Jackie-Eubany. She is a heart specialist. She's a board certified cardiologist and electrophysiologist, obviously a doctor, and she is the author of the best-selling book, Women and Heart Disease, The Real Story. And you can go to her website, womenandheartdiseasebook.com for that. And you can also go to cvwellnessinstitute.com if you want to go see Dr. Jackie at her Cardiovascular Wellness Institute in Orange, California, and in Irvine too, right, Dr. Jackie? Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I'm actually no longer in Irvine, but I'm in Lakewood, California.
Oh, Lakewood. Okay, good. But in Orange too as well, or just
Yes,
Lakewood?
Orange as well as in Lakewood, California.
Oh, okay. Cool. So she's got two places you can go see her. And we want to see you before we end up in the hospital. That's our goal,
Yes.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is, it's Women's Heart Month, and every third Wednesday we chat with you about heart health and lifestyle changes, what we can do for our diet, and only have the 5 ounces of wine a night, that kind of good stuff. But we thought, it's time to regroup with Dr. Jackie. We've been talking all these years and, kind of regroup back onto why you became a doctor, how it all started for you. It's women's history, who inspires you throughout your life. So let's just start. Dr. Jackie's earliest memory of childhood, where was that?
Ooh.
Well, I was born in Nigeria, as you guys all know. My earliest memories of wanting to become a doctor was, I think I was 5 or 6 years old, when my sister had this injury. I think she stepped on a broken glass and had a cut on her leg, and it was bleeding, and it was very traumatic event. And I went with my mom and my dad and my sister to the hospital, and I just watched the way they took care of her. And that was when it just started to, feel like this was something that I wanted to do, even at that age, even not being able to articulate what it was. But it was just something about being there and being around all of that just kind of felt natural and normal. And of course, I didn't say anything at that point. But as I started going to school, and my affinity or the subjects that I excelled in were math and science, so it just naturally led me to medical school, and just ended up where I am today.
Wow.
And what was the choice for becoming, I say a heart specialist, but you're a doctor, so this is, you're way beyond. So what was it that you said, okay, because you could have been a general doctor, you could have gone into, all kinds of health. What was it about the heart?
Right. So, growing up, there were a few doctors around, but not a lot. So I'd had some interactions with OBGYN. So when I went to medical school, I actually thought I wanted to be an OBGYN. That was, I thought I was going to do that. But, when you start medical school, you get to rotate through different subspecialties and see what you like. And I remember my OBGYN rotation was just horrible. I hated it. I liked OB. I liked giving birth. The babies were really cute, but the problem is that babies always want to come at 4 a.m. in the morning, and so you just never get to sleep.
How dare they?
Dr. Jackie knows that good sleep is good for your heart.
Good sleep is good for your heart, and as much as they were cute and all that stuff, I just was tired. And so I just knew I couldn't do that, because I knew I could not sustain that life of being up all night delivering babies. And that actually helps, helps you narrow down your options. You don't want to be a trauma surgeon. You don't want to be those kind of subspecialties where you're up all night. It's just, I knew I just could not sustain that for a long period of time. Wow. So, and which was actually pretty insightful, because I you kind of know that, but you don't really know it until I actually met this trauma surgeon. I was on call with him one night. It was like, I don't know, dead in the middle of the hour. And he was a transplant guy. So basically he harvests organs from people who, have been in accidents and for transplant. So of course we get, these things happen all the time in the middle of the night. And so I helped him, with the harvesting and all that stuff. And at the end of it, he just poured out to me and told me how, this is just, he's tired. He hasn't slept in months. He hasn't seen his children.
Wow.
He just went on and on about how this, he probably would not have picked this field. And I just listened to him. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, that is important, an important thing to think about when you're picking your career, even though I love doing all that. I love doing surgery, but after listening to him talking about how, lifestyle is important, you kind of do all this, you sacrifice, and then you become an adult and you completely miss out on your children's lives. You miss out on important things in life. Granted, what we do is a noble cause, saving lives and all, but you have to take care of yourself. And I could tell he was tired. He was just worn out and he was just venting. And I said,
so at that point, you're actually not healthy anymore.
Exactly.
You're the medical people now going, okay, yeah.
Exactly. So so that stayed in the back of my mind, maybe you don't want a specialty where you're up all night and you're in the hospital all the time. So I started doing, I did some other rotations. I did cardiology and I really loved it. That's actually how it started. And I never even encountered cardiology before. But the good thing about cardiology was, you did procedures, because I really enjoyed doing procedures, but I knew I couldn't be a surgeon. So I enjoyed doing the procedures, and I started doing cardiology. I really liked it. And then I stumbled into the field of electrophysiology, and I just knew that I was where I belonged.
So electrophysiology is where you get to play zapping, like this.
Yeah.
Zapping.
So you like to, she's all like, I'm electric. I'm Dr. Jackie. You're basically like stunning people back to life when you do that.
Yeah, so using radio frequency energy to burn abnormal electricity in the heart to restore normal sinus rhythm. So that's what I do. So lots of procedures.
She's a drummer. She's a drummer. I know you want to be a singer, but you're a drummer now for right now. That's cool.
So what actually happens in the heart when you do that?
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, the heart is, composed of a bunch of tissue. So you would have, a couple of tissues that the tissue has electrical activity, which is what the heartbeat is the electrical activity that causes a mechanical force that causes the heart to contract and pump. So when there's problems with the electrical activity, it's just firing too quickly. And so your pump is inefficient. And this is usually due to some tissue, like little pieces of tissue that are just firing out of control. So you just have to go into the heart and find that tissue and burn it to stop it from firing out of control. But you don't damage the whole heart. You just damage a piece of tissue and stop that abnormal electrical activity.
Now you sound like a mechanic.
It's like a spark plug. You need your spark plugs changed.
So what? Right, I'm an electrician of the heart, really.
No,
so.
she's a pyrotechnic now. I'm thinking like 4th of July, go see Dr. Jackie.
Yes, I will light your heart on fire.
Do they even have spark plugs in cars anymore?
Yes, because we just replaced them.
Oh,
and it cost $1,000.
That's basically what you're doing is taking out this part doesn't work anymore and put another part back in.
Yep.
No, or you zap it and just stop the electrical conduction.
Wow. So as a kid, looking at your sister, cutting her foot on glass to zapping and, helping people with their heart. But it seems like, when you were looking at the OBGYN that you're looking at also women at that time, and look at how much you're doing now with women and heart disease, that you started to focus on women. So you get into cardiology, the zapping part of the electrophysiology that you taught me how to pronounce. I know next month, everybody, in April, we're doing all the different kinds of heart diseases that I cannot pronounce one of those things. So that's going to be a spelling bee contest or something. But, all those, it's pretty amazing to go through that and then choose later, I'm going to do heart disease. And then you really even focus. I know with the patients, it's men and women, but you decided, okay, now I'm going to write a book for women. So did you start working with more women? Did you see that naturally happening in cases, or was it all the research, or what was going on there?
So it started. It wasn't anything that I planned. I wasn't like really focused on women initially, but I started taking care of, heart patients with heart disease. And you start to notice the difference in the way men are treated versus women who are treated with, heart attacks, the way they present and everything. So when guys come to the hospital with a heart attack, they tend to have the classic symptoms, with the chest pain, and they get treated right away. The important thing about treating heart attack is the quicker they get treated, the more likely you are to recover 100%. So when women come in with symptoms, they don't get treated as quickly because nobody's thinking heart attack. They're thinking, oh, it's a woman, it's something else. And she doesn't end up getting diagnosed with a heart attack till a couple of days later, which then leads to them not having the greatest outcome from this. So seeing this happen, several times as I'm learning about cardiology and taking care of patients, and also talking to women about heart attacks, and they have absolutely no idea, about heart attacks and the fact that heart disease is the number one killer of women, then I realized, education is lacking, and I have to do my part in educating women about heart disease, about the fact that it is number one killer. You should be aware when you're having these symptoms that heart attack is on the list. And when you come to the ER, you should be treated as quickly as men. That's why men survive the stuff and go on with their lives. And women who have these heart attacks and stuff, they tend to have poor prognosis. So that's when it started.
Symptoms. Let's do the symptoms right now, because a lot of times it's like, oh, is it that time of month?
Yeah.
Isn't that for everything? So even just being tired, right? Tingling.
Yeah.
Dizziness.
So symptoms can be very, different in women. First of all, the classic symptoms for heart attack is this left-sided chest pressure radiating down the arm and up the neck. Women do get chest pain, but like about 40% of women don't present with the classic signs and symptoms of a heart attack. So they can present with non-specific symptoms like dizziness. I've seen nausea several times as a presenting sign for a heart attack in a woman, and they end up in the GI suite. And a couple of days later, they get diagnosed with having a heart attack, and then they take them back to the cardiology suite. But then it's been a couple of days, so nausea, fatigue, sweaty, just sometimes not feeling right. And sometimes it can be difficult to tell. So I usually just educate my patients about risk factors. If you have a lot of risk factors for heart attacks, risk factors like obese, physical inactivity, if you have hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, if you're a heavy smoker, strong family history, if you have any of these things, and you're having these non-specific symptoms to one or several of them happening at the same time, and you're just generally not feeling good, you definitely need to seek medical attention to make sure you're not having a heart attack.
So should we say, like, if, it happens to ourselves or someone around us and we're taking them to the ER or calling 911, please check for a heart attack. It's a woman, we know they present differently. Dr. Jackie says so.
You can say, I have risk factors. I think, heart attack, you should look into that. And, because the test that you need to get to determine whether you're having a heart attack is 1, an EKG, and 2 is a blood test looking for troponin. And if you don't get those, you'll never know that somebody's having a heart attack. So you need those tests done ASAP as soon as they hit the ER, because then you can act quickly if they are indeed having a heart attack.
So a lot of people will stop at that.
The Fred Sanford thing, Elizabeth, I'm coming.
Oh, here we go.
When the guys come in, they get treated right away. So
so they stumble in. So do you think smoking is one of the, and I know obesity is one of the things too, but smoking one of the top things for heart health?
Absolutely. The Surgeon General says smoking is one of the most preventable causes of heart disease. Smoking is just bad for you all around, not only for your heart, but also your other organ systems like the lungs, the kidneys, and everything else. So smoking is a bad risk factor for coronary disease.
So like if someone got lung cancer or breast cancer and they continued smoking, could they end up, I mean, I know people, I think we all know someone who needs to stop, and they've even had a heart attack or had cancer, and, can not quitting at that point. Can lung cancer lead to a heart attack
it would not be the lung cancer that leads to the heart attack. It's the cigarette and
The
the
cigarette.
chemicals within the cigarette itself that causes destruction to heart tissue, vascular, your veins, and all those things that eventually lead to the heart attack.
Wow.
It's kind of amazing that it's even allowed to be on the market when you think about it, when we actually know.
Well, people are still going to do it.
Well,
Just,
I mean,
you know.
okay, so you can buy turpentine, but you're not supposed to drink it.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
people, listen, people sniff glue, so,
Well,
I
that's
mean,
kinda-
there's,
The tobacco company has a strong lobby in Congress. So, I know you guys have been hearing about the vaping products that
Yeah.
they're putting
Yeah.
out now that are candy flavored. So they're basically targeting children now. Get them hooked while they're children, and you'll have a customer for life. And this is
just
still
like those little
happening.
Lucky Strike candies that we got as kids. And we thought, oh, we're like the movie stars. Look at us.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, but that
yeah.
was
So
just powdered sugar.
Yeah, but still, but you had the coolness.
It wasn't good for you, but it wasn't.
But you thought you
Yeah,
were
but-
cool. And that's what they
Yeah.
sold you on
That's
as
what they
kids.
start. That's how they start. But yeah, the vaping stuff now does have nicotine in it, and it's so it's
Wow.
bad for you. So you get them hooked now, and they'll always be a customer. And so as part of the American Heart Association, where we're trying to fight to get legislation passed to ban the distribution or selling of these vaping products.
So what
especially
about
the candy
everybody
ones.
with pot, with their smoking pot, or they do it through those little vaping things too, with marijuana? And I know a lot of that's legalized in a lot of places, and there's some good stuff, and there's stuff that's not even got whatever the THC in it, it's like all CBD or whatever. I mean, to me, like, if you're smoking pot, isn't that the same thing as smoking a cigarette or like smoking a cigar in a way? Or is it?
No, was it different products? Cigarettes have a lot of carcinogens in it. It has nicotine. It has all these things. Marijuana doesn't quite have those chemicals in them. I'm not condone, or I'm not saying that you.
I
should
know
go out
she's
there
looking at me like,
and
don't
smoke
you be smoking no weed.
marijuana, but there are different products. We know for certain that cigarettes lead to X, Y, and Z, but we don't know for certain what marijuana does to the body, because it's a study that has not been done, because it's just a difficult study to do.
Everybody's different on it from what I've read. It really does affect people differently. It's kind of like booze. Like some people can have a shot of tequila and be perfectly fine, and others can get mean. I don't know on tequila though. I don't know, but whatever. Everybody's different. But let's get back to, okay, so now everybody no smoking of anything. But
And watch the tequila.
and 5 ounces, okay, so of
5
wine.
ounces.
But anyway, we always have to bring that up. But going into this women's heart health, and then writing a book, and then you've ended up on TV, like on the doctor show, and doing this, it's when I think now, you've also gone through a pandemic. What was that like, being a doctor during the pandemic, and what's it like? And I know we're not in the clear, right? We're still not. There's a lot of surgeries. Did that affect what was happening to your patients heart health wise, and even getting procedures done during COVID?
Yeah, with COVID, the hospitals, in order to save their resources to treat the COVID patients that were very sick. The first wave of COVID was pretty bad. We had a lot of very sick patients in the hospital. So they had to divert a lot of the resources to take care of these people. And the resources include nursing staff, equipment and everything. So all elective procedures were canceled as a result. So my procedures were canceled because they were elective. Even the cath labs, or the labs that we do our procedures in, they converted them into COVID wards so that they could put patients in there. So so a lot of the hospitals in my area ended up canceling elective procedures for several months to divert resources to take care of COVID patients. And as far as my clinic goes, my patients who were, have heart condition, a lot of them were very scared of COVID, and they didn't come to clinic because they didn't want to catch it. They definitely didn't go to the hospital. So they stayed at home, even if they felt like they were having, heart attacks or chest pains. None of them were showing up at the hospital with these things, with symptoms. So we were wondering where these people are. We went from, taking care of all these heart attack people coming in the hospital to COVID times, and nobody's coming in with a heart attack. You're like, where are these people? So we don't know what happened to them. Maybe they stayed home, maybe they passed away, maybe it passed. Don't know. So with time, we're going to get more data and find out, what has happened, what was happened to these people who've had heart attacks, but yeah, we don't know for right now.
Wow, it's kind of freaky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's I mean, I understand that fear too. I mean, we have friends that, it's like if you have an immune situation, is an elective surgery that you really, really need. And then some people who need surgery that have not been able to have it for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing. So I think this is where, as much as we can on our lifestyle habits, be good to ourselves and take care of ourselves, But, the pandemic, that's something, I mean, did you ever think you were going to see something like this in your career?
Oh, never.
Yeah.
You thought this
Never.
is like smallpox from years ago,
Yeah. It just came out of left field, that was, I never expected to see that. But I mean, I think, I'm glad. I mean, we're definitely getting to a point where the numbers have decreased quite a bit. We don't have a lot of admissions, we're back to almost 100% in doing our procedures and all, but maybe we needed to go through something like this so that we're, don't take life for granted, and don't take it for granted that, our lives will always be the way it is. This was just really a wake-up call for all of us. So, yeah.
And what
I
about
think
your
so.
belief in medicine, watching vaccines being created so fast, and it obviously is always going to change, and just watching science and the medical field, what was that like to be in the front seat, seeing all of this happen? I mean, to me, it's pretty exciting what humans can create, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, studying medicine, I mean, this is the way we practice medicine, as long as I've been training. So it wasn't a surprise to me. We try things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. Even in the field of cardiology, it's still changing. Like cardiologists who trained 30 years ago, or compared to me who trained more recently, we do things differently now than even they did. And we're still the same kind of doctor. So things evolve and change. We learn things, change techniques, change stuff, but we have to just trust science. We have to give it time to work, because that's what happens. And we just have to back the people up who spent all their lives studying science to create better lives for the rest of us. And there was just a lot of people being impatient and fighting and screaming, which I thought was unnecessary, because there's this, what we did, with the vaccines and all, is not any different than we've done in the past to cure other illnesses. This is just the same thing.
It's amazing to me, all the drama about the vaccine and the political implications and all that got involved, because I remember going to school, you had to have measles shot, you had to have smallpox, you had to have certain things before you could fly out of the country.
You made me have the behave yourself shot.
That's right. It worked. Now,
bend over, Lisa.
No, but you had to have certain shots on your record before you were allowed to go to school.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to have polio. Like I remember when polio was a big deal, and you had to go. We went to the bank and got polio shots, because that's where you could go get them. And there was no drama about should you or should you not. It was go get your polio shot, or
I thought at the beginning of COVID, we were all kind of like, oh, this country is actually going to work together. And then it just like blew up. And I was like, what the heck? Okay. And everyone's got an opinion and stuff, but I'm like, okay, but I think I'm so glad to see it get to a better place. I mean, you've got to feel much better too. I mean, weren't you scared, like, being around patients, like, how much does your mask work? Like, you know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah, because you see, they're very sick. I mean, of course, we in the hospital saw the very sick people. Right. I mean, people, like they said, maybe 3%, what was it, 1 to 3% died, and the majority of people have no symptoms. So people outside who are not in the hospital see the people who had the runny nose and these simple symptoms. I saw all the very sick people. And so that was enough to just put the fear of this disease in you. People who were in the hospital for, actually, there's a patient who just was discharged. He'd been in the hospital 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
65-year-old man, 6 weeks from
That's
home. So
insane.
you
Well,
see these
yeah,
things,
we
and
have had friends and they said it's like
Mm.
you just really think you're going to
But
die now.
what
They think it's
yeah,
like this is it, we're going, and it's really not a fun
yeah, it's
thing to get.
not.
And some people are easier. Everybody's a little different. How
Everybody's
how are
different.
how are things for nurses and some of the caretakers too? Because we've heard like the mental strain on the medical staff. I mean,
Mm.
in
Yeah, it has been, because we're trying to take it. We're trying to take care of these people. If you overwhelm the hospitals with COVID
Mm.
cases, everyone will die. You
Mm.
cannot overwhelm the hospitals, and this was the reason for the masking and staying indoors and those kinds of things. Because we're just not equipped to take care
Mm,
of all these people. So yeah, it gets overwhelming when you're in a nurse in the ICU. You're seeing all these sick people. You're seeing people dying. I mean,
Mm.
it weighs very heavy on you, weighs very heavy on your heart. And a
Mm.
lot of these nurses have little children at home. They're afraid to bring this
Oh,
home
yeah.
to their family.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a very stressful time. I remember
mm,
talking to one of the ICU doctors at one of the hospitals I work in, and every time, he said he took care of a whole lot of COVID patients, and he says every minute there was a code going. I mean, somebody was in cardiac arrest. So, in the hospitals, when someone goes into a cardiac arrest, they make an announcement, code blue, code blue. He's like,
Mm.
that code blue is coming on every few minutes that now, when it goes off, he feels like this
it's
trauma
it's like
about it.
PTSD from
Yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah.
like PTSD that somebody's dying. He says, because these people, you could never resuscitate them. They just died. You
Mm.
resuscitate, and they were just dying. So
It's got
yeah,
to be really hard. I mean, just even as a doctor losing a patient, that has
yeah,
got to be the
Mm.
hardest you
it
feel. Like you
is. It
you
really
care,
is.
and then to have so many people go. Is
Yeah.
there
Mm.
is there now communication within the medical industry for what if it happens again with a different virus? Because some people are thinking even with climate change that more viruses are possible. I don't know. There's all these stories
Well,
out there. I don't
things,
want to believe anything
well,
anymore.
viruses
You know,
mutate. They have
yeah,
that
that
ability
this
to
could happen. This
mutate
could
and
happen again. I mean, it's history is it the probability is real. So are there? I mean, have things happened in this to make hospital systems stronger? Are we still just
Um.
waiting in the
Yeah.
water?
We would probably just be waiting on the water for something else to happen, because you're not going to be ready for anything that comes out, because you're not going to have the immunity. You're going to have to build the vaccines again, and you're going to have to do all these things. So, but maybe in the sense that, we know how to get ventilators, if we need
Mhm.
massive amounts of things, maybe we've learned how to procure them quickly.
And we
And
all know how to go and steal toilet paper and spaghetti noodles.
yeah, so I
And you're
think we've
stealing all
learned.
the beans. No wonder you need all that toilet paper. Sorry, that
Okay.
Yeah,
was
make sure you keep your stockpile. Keep your
yeah,
stockpile. Yeah, exactly.
it's
Exactly.
it is just
It,
a big learning thing, and I just thinking about your career to just have that as
mm.
being part of your legacy as a doctor. Going back to being a woman in this industry, what is that like as a doctor? Not only, there's nurses and, Nancy, before we were recording, you were talking about how, like, if you're going to get a college education at her age, they were like, you're going to be a nurse or a
Teacher,
teacher. And,
teacher.
and at one point you never saw male nurses either, right? That was a whole other
Yeah,
I
new
that was
know.
beginning in
that's
the
a new
medical
one.
industry,
I
right?
know.
So,
In
That's a
my
new one.
lifetime, I've seen that going
Yeah.
from the ward full of nurses to
To,
now, it's like
yeah,
almost half and half. You see just as
oh,
many
wow.
men nurses
that's
as you
weird.
do women nurses. And the same with doctors. It used to be
Oh,
just men doctors, and now
Mm.
we've come full, to the
Yeah,
other side, and you're seeing more and more women, doctors. I remember there was a time when anytime you said surgeon, everybody just assumed it was a man. But that's not the
exactly.
case anymore. When you say
Mm.
surgeons or cardiologists, there you see lots of women in this
Mm.
field, and it's very exciting to see the improvement.
mm,
Mm.
Definitely, when I was coming up, there weren't a lot of women in the field.
No.
It's just a male dominated field, and you just fought through it. You just struggled and fought through it, and just stepped up and worked hard, because everybody just assumes, oh, you're a woman, that means that you're going to be taking time off because you have childcare issues. Oh, you're going to get pregnant and therefore you can't take call. So people always discount you and all those kinds of things. And you always have to prove that, you didn't get here because you're a woman, but you got here because I'm just as smart as you and I work just as hard as you. And you're constantly having to prove yourself, and sometimes it's a little tough because they have their own male camaraderie. And, they're buddies with the attending. And you don't have that kind of relationship with male, staff that are older than you, because sometimes people are nervous about inappropriate relationships and those kind of things. So I mean, it was tough. It was tough, but you just worked hard, kept your head above water. There are times they were tough. You want to cry, you go into the closet and cry, then you wipe your tears out and get back in the game.
Yeah.
But if you wanted it badly enough, you would do whatever it took to finish the programming, which is what
Was
I
that the same for you going in the Navy too, right? So it was the Navy, and then that went into college, and then so did the Navy. I mean, that had to also be kind of male dominated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I've always grown up around. I've always been in areas that is just male dominated. So I don't even know what it would be like.
Well, you're from Nigeria too. Growing up in South Africa and Kenya, it was very male dominated.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. That's the only life I know. So I don't know of a workplace that's all women. I don't even know what that would feel like. So with just being a female, I know you just have to work. I mean, I'm probably not just being a female, just being a doctor in general. You have to work really hard. And so you just work really hard and push and push and push until you finish the program.
How long were you in the Navy for?
I was in the Navy for 12 years.
That's a long time.
Wow, 12 years. Wow. So where were you based? Like, did they put you in different places? And what did you do?
So,
I mean, were you the Secret Service, Dr. Jackie?
No, I wasn't in Secret Service. That's another.
That's a whole other deal.
But so I was, I grew up in California, but I went to school on the East Coast. I went to Boston University. So I decided I was going to join the Navy and see the world. And I joined the Navy in Boston, and they brought me back home to San Diego.
You see the world?
Most people are going, yay, I'm going to San Diego. But you're like, dude, no.
But
now you travel
cool
the world. So we got to say Dr. Jack has been all over the world.
Yes. And that was thanks to the Navy, because, before the Navy, I mean, I didn't really do that much travel. Well, I traveled a little bit coming from Nigeria here and there, but it never crossed my mind to go to Asia. We go to Europe, because Europe is the layover going to Africa or Nigeria. And so I've been to Europe. And I've been to Nigeria a couple of times, but I've never been to Asia. So after spending 3 years in San Diego, my next duty station was Guam, which I was in the middle of the Pacific.
Wow.
I call that was the umbilical cord trial. My umbilical cord was cut for the first time. I've always been so close to my mother. And this was the first time I moved away from her. And it was kind of nerve-wracking, but I was fine. But I was very nervous about moving that far away from my family. I'd never done that before. But anyway, so I was in the middle of the Pacific in Asia.
With all the bird poo. They have all the bird poo there, right? Don't they?
They do have some, yeah. So that's what started my exploration of that part of the world that I really enjoyed. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to do all that while I was there. And so I'm a well-rounded person as a result of all of that. So I'm always happy.
How old were you when you moved to America?
About 10 years old. Roughly.
Wow. Did you experience for us, it was a culture shock coming here,
coming back.
Well, I didn't know America, so I grew up, and different, and coming here was just overwhelming. Let's put it that way. Like, why do we have 10 things for one thing in the store? What's all this,
Yes,
so did you feel a change coming over here as a kid? 10 years old, you kind of can sneak into it, though. I think,
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't, it was different, but I managed to, fit in with friends and move on. I don't remember any big trauma about the change. But yeah, it definitely was different. Life was
a little colder
here. Yeah, exactly. Then there,
but that's because I think when I was 10, we were moving to England and from Kenya, and that was, wow, everybody looks like punks. And,
Yeah,
and
that
in
was
Kenya,
fun.
lived with 2 different tribes in the bush at one point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was looking at their earrings and piercings and stuff. I'm like, look at these white people trying to be black people in the bush, which is true. And people get mad at me
Well,
for saying this, but this is
but it wasn't any different.
it was, but they were rebelling on stuff, but it was like a whole other, it was just weird and different. But as kids, you're so open minded and so you're not
Absolutely.
the one having
Yeah.
to make money or anything like that. It's not like that
Right.
kind of getting jobs and all of
Yeah,
that. So it's a
exactly.
whole
Mm.
different world. But I mean, going to the Navy, you wanted to do that to see the world. That was your way of like, hey, let's travel,
Yeah,
get
well,
in.
it was. Plus, they paid for school, which was
Yes,
a
That's
your
bonus.
ticket. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
that was
huge
really the
ticket.
big bonus. So yeah, but yeah, and I ended up having a good time. I ended up just
Cool.
doing things that being open to a big world that I never knew existed before, and doing things I'd never done before, and meeting people from all over the world, all walks of life, and
That's a good
it
thing.
was definitely a great experience.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
So did you have to
Cool.
do boot camp and crawl through the mud and all of that?
No.
Good girl, good
Crawl
girl,
through the
good
mud.
girl. She made the good girl.
So they were really needed doctors in the military. So of course, when they really need you, then they'll help you get in quickly. So I had a 2-week course in Florida, Pendleton,
Yeah.
Oh, Camp Pendleton.
no,
No,
in,
that's
in
Oceanside.
Florida,
Pensacola. Pensacola.
Pensacola, Florida. Yeah,
Pensacola.
how could I
I
not
used to
remember
live in
that?
Pensacola. That's where I used to live
Yes.
there.
Yes, Pensacola.
And San Diego. See, we all knew each other at some point
Yeah,
somewhere
this
in
is
the past.
Navy, exactly. So I did a 2-week officer training program there to learn how to wear my uniform and learn a few things about the Navy. And then I was thrown into the hospital to go work. So no, I didn't go to boot camp or anything.
Well, good for you. So she scored. That is awesome. You didn't have to do that, but I'm glad you got to travel through it. Now you've traveled all over the world. I mean, really, Madagascar. I remember you went to Madagascar. Didn't you?
Yes, 2 years ago, went to Madagascar. That was very exciting. And
Yeah.
next week, I'm going to the Galapagos Islands
Oh,
on a cruise. So
cool.
yes, I'm very excited about
I know
that.
you're a doctor,
Awesome.
but dude. So you're
No,
gonna
that's
see
cool.
all the beauty. You're gonna be in the Navy again.
Yes, I'm gonna be on the ship. Yes, I'm
That
very
is
excited about that.
That's awesome.
Oh, well, we're going to have an interview just on that. Dr.
Yes.
Jackie Goes to Galapagos. We haven't had you on a travel show for 2 years?
I
Yeah.
know, because
But
it has been 2
Galapagos
years.
is from
Mm.
everybody, that is like a big bucket list once in a lifetime. Because don't you
Yeah.
have to wait to be able to you can't just go, right? Isn't it? Don't they limit the amount of people on the islands
Well, they have
out
to.
there?
They do. So we're on
Yeah.
the ship. So all the ships are small. So I guess you just have to get your ticket before they sell out. But yeah, I think the ship that I'm on only houses 100 people or something like that. So just small ships, just a limited amount of people coming on and off the island because it's
Yeah.
it's
Protected.
preserved, protected, and those kinds of things. So yeah, so
Gosh,
very
that's
limited amount.
exciting.
I am so excited. I haven't
I
traveled in 2 years. I just
Oh, Dr. Jackie
Uh-oh.
needs some health time. She
I
needs
She
some
needs
Dr.
some,
Jackie.
travel time.
Yeah, you need some travel time.
do. It's my favorite pastime. I
Yeah,
haven't done
see,
that in
that's
2
you're
years. So
just like us. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, we got to go somewhere new.
You have to have
Yes.
that balance. It's good for your heart. You said so the last time we
Absolutely.
talked.
Mhm.
It's good for your heart. So out of women, I mean, when you were studying and doing all that hard work, and I know being a resident, and it's not easy becoming a doctor. A lot of, like you were talking about, it's a lot of hours too. And were there any women while you were in there that you could look up to as doctors? Were there any women in the medical field that you went, they did good? I'm trying to,
Not
I'm trying to,
many. I'll
I
tell
mean,
you
yeah.
that, especially when I was coming through. Not many at all. But I do remember one of my program directors from electrophysiology. She was one of my very few female attendings that I worked with, and she was really nice to me. She encouraged me, and she would check up on me, make sure I was doing okay, because she remembered what it's like to be in this kind of environment. So yeah, so she was really good to me, and I admired her because she probably came through during worse times, because she's, several years older than me, like 15 years maybe. So she came through when there really were no women around.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so she kind of paved the way for us coming through, and kind of looked out for us. So that was good.
And now who do you look up to for women? I mean, it's Women's History Month.
I know. I just look up to women who have overcome so much in life and have excelled and have reached, the top, they've reached places where many women or many people haven't been to. One of my favorite people that I look up to is Oprah Winfrey. I mean, she overcame so much obstacles. I mean, she came from absolutely nothing to think, how can you come from that and end up where you are in your one lifetime? That is amazing. I mean, it goes to show you, a testament to the fact that hard work will get you, hard work and determination will get you where you want to go.
Well, plus, I think she's really genuinely nice.
Yeah.
I think she cares. So,
I do too. Yeah, exactly.
So her passion, it shows. And I think that people are drawn to people who show that kind of passion.
And she showed, if anybody has a bedside manner, right, Dr. Wise, she did, because she really wanted to be away from being the broadcaster reading the teleprompter to actually getting the human experience, and put herself into things, tried things on air, and was honest with people.
And she could laugh.
And well, she still is. And she's done some great interviews, Yeah, she has. She really has gone from, I mean, and you think Maya Angelou being there at her side too, like don't you want to be able to call up Maya Angelou, like, hey, this person's really pissing me off. Let me write a poem about it and inspire you to move forward.
That's right, exactly.
So it's just it's amazing. And now we've got that young girl, the poet laureate.
Oh my goodness, she's amazing.
Amanda,
isn't she smart? Wow.
Yes, she's absolutely amazing. So yes.
I think there's a lot of hope for women now. I think we still have a long way to go, but I feel we really do. We're moving. We're moving.
Yes,
forward.
I agree. Like Hillary says, we've cracked the glass ceiling, we're all over, and people, people don't say as much that, women shouldn't be doctors or anything, because you see women doing everything
now.
So all the younger women who are growing up knowing that women can do these things. And so so it's good.
When you were decided to become a doctor, that you're going to do this and have your goal, and you going through all of that, like, okay, I'm going to go in the closet and cry. I mean, we all have those moments, and God, we do not want one male to see that. When you feel that, when you start to feel that quiver, you're like, don't you do it now.
I think they do it.
Don't you dare.
I think they do that, but they don't cry so much as they just pound on walls.
No, they just pout. They pout, and then give somebody else a black eye or something. But when you get into those moments there, you've got to pull through. And when your goals and you need to stick to them. How did you always keep that in front of you? Did you write like 5-year, 10-year plans? Did you write goals down, or did you just go, that's my goal and that's it, I'm sticking to it?
Yeah, I've always had this strong conviction about what I wanted to do. So that was always there. But when I would get down, I would, either call your mom and cry on the phone, or just talk to somebody who would just talk you through it and, help you just get over the moment. And then remind you of the big picture, because now you're just focused on the little thing, but now you look at the big picture and get you back on track. But it's always good to have, close relatives, close friends, and I guess that's the thing when you're in these programs with all men, you don't really have any close friends. I would seek out friends that were not in my field, because there weren't that many women. So my friends were not in my field, so I could call them and talk to them and let out some emotional steam. So you always have to have people around you that you can, let the steam out and cry and do whatever it is you need to do to get over that
move on.
Little bump. And then you have to move forward, because there are always bumps everywhere you go. It's not going to be a smooth, if you want to achieve anything, it's not going to be simple, period. No. So you got to figure out ways to get over the hump.
I don't think if it was smooth, nobody would be at their best.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd be
Exactly.
too easy and
Oh, and
Yeah,
then it
you
wouldn't mean
challenge
anything.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you challenge people.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, you experience this no matter who you are, but with not having the social support within your program, but you can always go outside of your program and get it. And I think that'd be fine too.
That's a really good point. And also because that brings in a different perspective, because sometimes someone in the same field is we're looking at a microscope. It's not like if you're in an airplane, you see how big, how things are, from a distance. You need to look at things from a bigger perspective. So having people not in the same field, because then it becomes, oh well, then this happened to me, and then it becomes it can inflate it sometimes, depending on the person. And you have to pick your friends wisely.
Yes,
you really do have to pick your friends wisely in the same circle of work. You know what I mean? You have to, and because some people make it worse. So you have to pick your friends wisely, I think, always. And when in regards to heart health, it's important to release the stress.
Yes.
Because stress is not good on the heart, from what I've heard.
It's absolutely not. Did you hear that? Who told you that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right there with those 5 ounces.
And I read about it in a book, and it's called Women and Heart Disease, the Real Story.
Yes.
And then there's a lady called Dr-Jacqueline-Eubany tells us all about what hypertension is. Yes. And then she goes on to let us know not to eat egg yolks, eat egg whites.
Well, I'm glad to know that you're listening and you are learning. So
yes, always.
Makes me happy.
Well, I'm looking forward to speaking with you next time, when we're going to hear all about how you de-stressed in the Galapagos Islands and hung out with iguanas and sea lions. And
are you going to go scuba diving or
no? We're just going to do snorkeling.
But
it's been a long time.
Okay.
I would need to get recertified. It has been, I think the last time I went scuba diving was 2012. So I would need to get recertified. So we're not going to do it this time. But
I want to go on a glass bottom boat.
But can you take an underwater camera and take pictures?
Well, yeah, when you snorkel, yeah.
Well, come on. We're waiting.
We want to see.
Yes, we're going to have to do a show on that, because we want to hear all about Galapagos. And I want to see did you see that David Attenborough? Now, this is not good for those, with this heart issue, because it will make your heart race, which is sometimes fun. But have you seen the iguanas being attacked by the snakes?
Oh, don't do
video
that.
with that?
No, Lisa.
Stop it. No, I want you to go to Galapagos and have fun and not see the snakes. But
dude, stop it.
There's snakes on the beach. I'm just saying.
You're going to get a spanking after this.
And you're going to see such beautiful bird
Mom
life
has
too.
Spoken.
They've got those big birds with the big red breasts that go like woo woo,
Oh,
so I'm going to send you a link to an article. Nelly Votau, she wrote a story. She went to Galapagos Islands and then went through some other areas in Ecuador, and we had a little video of them. I'll send it to you because it's really cool.
Yeah,
had a good time. But now it's time for an update, so I'm glad you're going. But next time, I'm really excited to have you also talk about all the different heart diseases, so that we can have a pronunciation lesson of all of these medical terms that I really it's gonna be class, and we'll just sit there and we can keep score, and then it'll be a study group for Dr. Jackie. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jackie. It is always fun to have you on the show, and it's fun to revisit your story and just, just all of what you're doing in your life. I mean, look how much you're living through, as a doctor, and the change of what has gone on. So everyone, again, Women and Heart Disease, the real story, go get it. It's womenandheartdiseasebook.com. It is a bestseller. Did we forget to say that? We can't forget that. My gosh, it is a bestseller. And everyone, Dr. Jackie's here on every third Wednesday, unless she's playing with, fish and birds in the Galapagos Islands. So, but listen, have a wonderful time and enjoy every second.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you ladies.
Take care.
You too.
All right. Take care.